After a half-century in politics, Joe Biden delivered his farewell address to the nation on Wednesday. His warnings about the oligarchy and extreme concentrations of wealth and power were striking, and his remarks on the threat of the tech-industrial complex drew immediate comparisons to President Eisenhower's famous military-industrial complex warning in his own farewell address back in 1961. Take a listen.
An oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms, and a fair shot for everyone to get ahead.
Now, Biden also laid out a powerful agenda, which included changing the tax code to ensure billionaires pay their fair share, eliminating the flow of hidden sources of money into political campaigns, banning members of Congress from trading stocks, and establishing 18-year term limits for members of the Supreme Court. Those are all great ideas. But I have a question. Where was this Joe Biden 4 years ago? And I'm not the only one who was thinking it. Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse posted, "Now," he tells us. President Biden speaks out against dark money for climate action and for SCOTUS term limits. I pressed 4 years for this speech. He added that was a great speech. Had that speech launched the re-election campaign, we would have won. Had that speech launched his presidency, we would have saved America. Now, we fight on. He may be right, and it raises the question, why make this address now? I mean, was it political malpractice to save his best material, his most progressive positions yet, for his goodbye address? Are these warnings also new to Biden, brought on only by the billionaires and tech tycoons circling Mar-a-Lago and Trump's White House and getting ready to take the country over? Or was it impossible to talk about the oligarchy and the tech industrial complex early in his presidency because of all the power they also have over the Democratic Party as well? These are questions that Democrats and other political watchers are left to examine as we say goodbye to Joe and say hello to Trump 2.0. Kicking us off this hour is the man who ran Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2020, Faiz Sheket. He's also the founder of More Perfect Union and now a candidate for DNC chair. Faiz, it's great to have you back on the show. When I hear President Biden railing against the oligarchy, which I completely agree with, and the dangerous concentration of wealth and power in the hands of the few, I actually thought I was listening to Bernie Sanders here for a moment, to a Bernie Sanders speech. It resonates like that. Why is Joe Biden putting this message out now? And as Senator Whitehouse pointed out, was it a mistake to not run his White House with this message in full force?
Well, reality has a well-known progressive populist bias here, Ivan. So we are obviously living in the midst of great income and wealth inequality, and we're kind of slowly slipping into an abyss where it's slapping everyone across the face, and you can't ignore it. Obviously, Bernie Sanders ran in 2015, 2016, calling on exactly this problem and wanting us to address it. The sad part for me, Ivan, is that there are actually a lot of instances in which you saw this Biden administration taking uniquely bold action against, Amazon. When you think of why Zuckerberg, quite frankly, is upset with the Biden administration, because they launched a lawsuit against him to break up the monopoly of Facebook. Now, I ask you, how many people know that? When you look at Elon Musk, he's very angry at Joe Biden. Do you know why? Because he didn't get opportunities to go and sit down and talk to him because Biden thought he was a union buster. Now, how many people know that? What was the big gap, sadly, during this period of time where you had a lot of actions from the Biden administration that I think we're taking on corporate power? I mean, you think Big Pharma with Medicare price negotiation, you think the Federal Trade Commission, the crypto world was very angry at Gary Gensler. And yet very few people knew about that because the political apparatus was not out there in conflict alongside Joe Biden as his administration was taking on corporate power.
So, I mean, is it even possible for Democrats to run against the oligarchy? I mean, there are oligarchs, there are billionaires that support the Democratic Party. You've got many voters likely to perceive and are right to perceive that the concentration of wealth and power as a problem for both political parties. Perhaps it just manifests its way differently, maybe more overtly. There's not a Democratic Elon Musk running around and jumping up and down on the stage with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, but how do
we had Mark Cuban, if you remember, Iman.
Yeah, that's true. You do have Mark Cuban. But how do Democrats run against the oligarchy when on the elite level they are part of it themselves?
Yeah, and I think that in this moment, it's important as a Democrat myself and a believer in the brand. It needs much repair. It's tarnished. It's failing with a lot of people because they hold us, quite frankly, to a higher standard than they do the Republicans. Republicans are the alt option, and they hold us to that higher bar because they feel in moments of great wealth and income inequality, the Democratic Party for a long period of time has been the fighter for the common man and woman. Its lineage of FDR and JFK and LBJ and those periods of bringing forth, great social safety nets and fighting against corporate monopolists. That was our long tradition in history. And the economic justice primacy of this current iteration of the Democratic primary party has been lost a bit. It is not the first two things you'll hear out of the mouths of too many Democrats, and we've got to change that. That's how you rebuild as a working class party again. You've got to think of putting that economic justice primacy up top, building a grassroots party, really like associating us with fights all around the country when we are taking on wealth and income inequality. Like you're fighting housing evictions from greedy landlords, or you're fighting utility rate hikes from big utility companies. Whatever the case might be, we associate ourselves with those fights. When workers go on strike or when they organize at big plants, we should associate ourselves with those. But too much, we've been sitting on the sidelines, and that's got to change.
Let me ask you a question about your old boss, if you don't mind, Bernie Sanders. The day after the election, Senator Sanders made this bold statement. He said it should come as no great surprise that a Democratic Party which has abandoned working class people would find that the working class has abandoned them. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they are right. And yet, Senator Sanders is also fond of repeating the same phrase about President Biden. Here's what he told my colleague Kristen Welker right after the election as well.
President Biden, when he came into office, said that he would be the most progressive president since FDR. And I think on domestic issues, not foreign policy, on domestic issues, he has kept his word, and the agenda that he has pushed through has been an extraordinarily strong one.
How do you square those two statements? On one hand, the Democrats have abandoned the working class. On the other hand, Joe Biden was the most progressive president since FDR.
So when you look at abandoning the working class, he's very upset about how Kamala Harris and the team ran that presidential campaign. Felt, when Boeing workers were on strike during the course of the Kamala Harris campaign, you didn't hear us talk about that. You didn't hear too many opportunities of going out and standing with the ports workers when they were on strike during the campaign. You didn't hear a ton of a bold agenda of raising the minimum wage, of what's the next iteration of canceling student debt, how are we going to expand Medicare. We pushed behind the scenes to finally get, her talking about expanding into home care, which when she did, Bernie Sanders went out and talked about it. Of course, we had urged her to stand with him and talk about that. That didn't come together. And so he was frustrated, quite frankly, that they preferenced Liz Cheney and Mark Cuban as key spokespersons, didn't feel like they were leaning into working class fights. And we made that argument behind the scenes a ton. And they made choices, and we didn't agree with those choices. Now, that said, the Biden record was that in our views, the Biden record was something proud to run on. And explain that while we were reducing prescription drug prices, particularly for seniors, let's say we're capping it at $2,000, their out-of-pocket expenses this year because of the efforts that we did. Now let's expand it. What's the next iteration? Or Medicare, we're improving upon. Now let's go to, hearing, dental, and vision coverage. What he was pushing, what are the next iterations? Let's build on a stock buyback tax that we've now introduced, and we're past at 1%. Let's raise it. Let's do more. And those were the things that were left on the table. You didn't hear, or remember price gouging. But you had a Biden administration doing actions on price gouging. She mentioned that she would, go after predatory price gouging, and then the fleshing out of that actually got watered down over the course of the campaign. It didn't get escalated, and so that's how I would explain the difference. Right? It was a course of criticizing how we campaigned versus how we were governing, and the two just didn't match up.
Let me ask you about you and your plans forward. You are running for the DNC chair. What do you hope to accomplish and change if elected?
Well, I'm glad that we have a lot of people talking about working class party, and I find that's the commonality. That's the bridge. We got to do it. So then I question, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? Let's do something different and new. And it has to start with building a grassroots party. I mean, we have to open the doors, invite people in, find willingness to challenge our own brand and our weakness with them, with working class people. And so in my view, you could use an apparatus of $100+ million a year in 50 states plus that I think, if you open those doors, you have an opportunity to go do the things that I've been, criticizing. You stand with striking workers. That's a core organizing philosophy. You do digital media around some of these economic justice fights that are going around the country. And God knows we'll have a lot of opportunities with Elon Musk and Donald Trump doing a hell of a lot of quid pro quo bidding that we'll have an opportunity to do content around. But this is the big moment. Do we open the doors? Do we get out in communities and build a vibrant grassroots network that's about taking on the ruling class, the corruption and political elite of the ruling class? That's what I want this Democratic Party to stand for. I'm going to pitch the vision. We'll see where it goes.